One of the top conversations every season, even if it begins a little prematurely, is who will win the Heisman Trophy. If you're a fan of roller coasters, you probably enjoyed last season's Heisman Trophy race. It felt like every week we had a new leader. Hendon Hooker was on fire to start the season. Of course, Bryce Young and CJ Stroud were top-notch. Caleb Williams and Lincoln Riley put up more ridiculous numbers once again. There was even a Cinderella story with Max Duggan and TCU. And we had 2 running backs receive first-place votes. But this year's race might be even crazier. Just off the top of my head, there's at least 8 quarterbacks that could potentially be in the running for the Heisman this year, along with running backs like Blake Corum and Nick Singleton and players like Marvin Harrison Jr. at Ohio State. The list is endless. And while the list for next season might be endless, it more than likely always starts with Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams looks to become the second player ever to win 2 Heisman trophies, and I honestly think he has a good chance to do it. Last season, Williams put up over 4,900 yards and over 50 combined touchdowns to help the USC Trojans get back to the Pac-12 championship for the first time since 2017. USC is returning a ton of key players and have once again used the transfer portal to fill immediate needs for this roster. Anthony Lucas, Bear Alexander, and Emmanuel Pregnon should be impact players for USC and help them repeat as one of the top dogs in the Pac-12 next season. Utah seems to really be the only team to have the Trojans figured out. Other than that, I think the Pac-12 should be a walk in the park for USC. As of right now, I would take USC over teams like Washington and Oregon. I also think Oregon State has potential to make things interesting, but that's for another video. In the last 6 years, Lincoln Riley has produced 3 Heisman quarterbacks. It's no secret his offenses produce fireworks week after week. Caleb Williams might be his biggest opponent in this race. Heisman Trophy voters have the highest voter fatigue in all of sports. The only time there's been a 2-time Heisman winner was back in 1974 and 75 when Archie Griffin put up over 3,300 yards and 16 touchdowns for Ohio State. However, if Caleb Williams can win the Pac-12 while shouldering an even bigger workload for USC this year, don't count out Williams to repeat. The second guy I want to talk about could be the most hyped receiver we've ever seen in college football history. Last season, we saw Marvin Harrison Jr. record 77 catches for over 1,200 yards and 14 touchdowns. He had 7 games with over 100 yards and recorded a touchdown in 8 games. That's with receivers like Julian Fleming and Emeka Ibuka also in this offense. The way last season ended for Harrison leads me to believe we are going to get an even freakier version of him in 2023. Not only did Ohio State come within inches of making the national championship, he also was snubbed at the Biletnikoff Award if you ask me. If we look back to Devonta Smith's Heisman season, he recorded 117 catches for 1,856 yards and a whopping 23 touchdowns. That would break the SEC record for most receiving yards and touchdowns in one season and pretty much all the Alabama school records. While Mac Jones had an impressive season as well, throwing for 4,500 yards and 41 touchdowns, Smith's historic season as a receiver was ultimately deemed more impressive by Heisman voters. The Heisman Trophy is awarded to the most outstanding player in college football, regardless of position, and Smith's record-breaking performance made him a clear favorite for the award. If Marvin Harrison Jr. can put up similar stats, break records in the process, and help Ohio State at least get back to the college football playoff, we could see another receiver actually take home the Heisman. The next player on my list is that quarterback over in Chapel Hill. Drake Maye is one of the top quarterback prospects in college football, so it's no surprise he's on this list. Last year, he finished in the top 5 of pretty much all major passing statistics and will likely do so again this year. Not only did Drake Maye throw for over 4,300 yards and 38 touchdowns, he also rushed for nearly 700 yards and 7 more touchdowns on the ground. Maye is losing the Tar Heels' top 2 wide receivers from last year in Josh Downs and Antoine Green, so the pressure is now all on him to lead this offense. However, he has shown the ability to elevate the play of those around him and make the most of his weapons. They do return Bryson Nesbitt, who caught over 500 yards last year. The Tar Heels also brought in transfers like Devontae Walker and Nate McCollum to try and revamp the receiver room for next season. The Tar Heels are also in great shape to be one of the top teams in the ACC next season. They very well could be undefeated going into the ACC championship, as their only big matchups are really South Carolina, Clemson, and possibly Duke. If Maye can continue to improve and build on his impressive stats from last season, while also leading UNC to success against tough opponents, he very well could be a top candidate for the Heisman Trophy next season. Before tearing his meniscus, Blake Corum looked like he could be the first running back to win the Heisman since 2015. He finished the season with over 1,400 yards and 18 touchdowns on the ground. He rushed for 100 yards or more in all of his Big Ten games besides the Ohio State game, which he got injured in. He also rushed for 150 plus yards in 4 games, including one 243-yard performance against Maryland. Thus far, it's been reported that Blake is ahead of schedule on his recovery and is already back running. All reports indicate that he will be good to go for week 1 of next season. During his recovery, he's put on an extra 10 pounds of muscle, which should help him keep protected as well. The Wolverines are primed to be right back in the mix for the college football playoff this season. If Corum stays healthy, I think it's safe to assume the All-American running back can repeat his success on the ground again. The final player on my list is Jayden Daniels. The LSU Tigers were one of the bigger surprises last season. They're going to be pretty loaded on the offensive side of the ball, with key names returning at receiver, tight end, and running back. The offensive line also had 2 freshman tackles, which will only get better next season. All this sets up Jayden Daniels to make another run at the Heisman Trophy. Towards the end of the year, as the Tigers built momentum, so did Daniels' Heisman odds. Looking at the Tigers' schedule, they very well could be 11-1, with their only loss being Alabama. Florida State and Texas A&M will be key games for Daniels, but they should be able to win those games. During SEC play last season, Jayden Daniels was responsible for 66% of the Tigers' touchdowns and had over 2,500 combined yards. Maybe even more impressive is the fact that Jayden only had 3 turnovers. His rushing ability can be electric, and that will not only create huge plays for LSU, but that will keep his name posted all over social media as well. If he can improve just slightly as a passer and bring up those passing touchdown numbers, I think Jayden Daniels will make a legit case to go to New York. But let me know in the comments, who's your favorite to win the Heisman next year? And if you're a football addict like I am, you can check out some of my other videos right here, and be sure to like and subscribe for more football related content. Until then, I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace.